Okay, you may be wondering, what in the heck are you doing, girl? Well, I'm about to explain, okay? So, this kitchen table we have had for many years. It has seen many, many layers of paint, and it's finally time to strip it down, get it back down to original wood, and try for the final time to make this table the style, the look that I want. So let's get started. First step is getting the table outside, which was a chore in itself because it is heavy. It might not look like a whole lot of nothing, but it is a whole lot of heavy, okay? I was struggling. And it's also awkward too, so to get it back on the pedestal is definitely a struggle. I almost broke it, but I managed, and yeah, this is what it was looking like before we got started. I did decide to go to Lowe's and grab this citri strip, I think is how you say it. So this is supposed to strip through multiple layers of paint, stain, oil, or acrylic based, and I've seen a ton of people use it, so I was like, you know what, let's give it a go. I've tried this in the past and it did not work like I thought it was going to, but I think the mistake I made was not covering the furniture and I let it dry out. That's not what you want. So I coated it on really thick with a paintbrush and then laid a piece of plastic over it and taped it up so it could work for a couple hours. A few hours passed, and this is what I was working with. I know my taping job is not the best, but hey, it worked. So I pulled this off, and to my surprise, it worked really well. When I went to go scrape it off, I was actually shocked at how well this was coming off. This is honestly kind of terrifying if you think about it. This chemical is strong enough to eat through paint and stuff. And I'm already a paranoid person, so I'm like, mask, gloves, don't let this stuff touch my skin because it'll melt right through. So I don't know. This stuff kind of freaks me out a little bit, but it did work really well. And I just had this little scraper and I just started scraping the paint off. And when I tell you this takes patience, if you don't have patience, I'm going to recommend just repainting the table. But if you have patience and you can actually take your time to get all this off, it is very satisfying. It's a very satisfying job. Very tedious, a lot of work. My hands, wrists, my arms, all of it hurts so much today. But, yeah, I'm really actually impressed with how well this worked. I will have links to the products that I recommend for a project like this if you do have, an old furniture piece that you want to strip down. But just remember to buy the proper scraper for this. I actually was using a spackling knife. I thought it was going to be strong enough, but it was a little too flimsy, so I ended up having to go to the store and buy a better scraper. So just wanted to point that out. I do think the longer you let this stuff sit and soak, the better. You won't have to scrape or use as much strength, so keep that in mind. I probably left mine on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours probably. Probably more so an hour and a half, I would say. And I think the 2 hour mark would have melted this paint off. I also think the longer the better, and you'll actually see how one half of the table peels off a lot easier than the other half. Also, technique is everything. If you can get your scraper up underneath the layer and just kind of shimmy it, wiggle it back and forth, and as you're scraping, it peels off the paint a lot smoother than here. I was just kind of scraping and going, but you learn as you go. And so just take my advice, make sure you have the right tools, work slower. Slower actually makes it worked better. As you can see, that area peeled up a lot faster. This actually reminds me of those videos of the people making ice cream. They put it on the flat top and then they roll the ice cream. Now I kind of want some ice cream. Also, since y'all know I love to talk about scents of things, since my nose is like a hound dog, the stripper that I'm using is very strong citrus scented. So while it doesn't smell like a strong chemical as much, it has a citrus scent. Nauseating. Absolutely nauseating to me. So just fair warning, do a project like this outside. I don't know how people use this type of stripper in their house. We would pass away, seriously. Before we keep going, we are going to take a quick ad break. Thank you so much for your love and support on my sponsorships and ads. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's be real. Mealtime can feel like a full-time job between the planning, shopping, and cooking, and then there's days where you just feel lost and you don't know what to make. That's where Hungry Root swoops in. Thank you, Hungry Root, for sponsoring today's video. Hungry Root is like a personal nutritionist who actually gets you. They learn your taste and health goals, and with over 15,000 recipes, you will always find something for the whole family. Plus, with so many meals that are ready in just 15 minutes or less, it's perfect for those days where I am swamped with work, busy all day, don't know what to cook, and then plus when the back to school nights collide with soccer practice or soccer games, It can get crazy around here, but what's really nice is that I always have options in my fridge. The food is top quality, organic produce, hormone and antibiotic-free meats and seafood, non-GMO choices, and you get zero junk like the high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners that are in a lot of products. You just get some good food, less stress, and fewer what's for dinner or lunch meltdowns. Every meal I've ever made with Hungry Root is amazing and super easy to cook too, especially for someone who doesn't like to cook. It's not the greatest at it, so I definitely recommend. You can actually take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus a free item in every box for life. Just click the link down below or go to hungryroot.com and use code CARRY. That's 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life at hungryroot.com with code CARRY. All right, here's where we left off. As you can see, I'm making amazing progress, but there was still quite a bit of paint left behind, so it was time for another layer. The second layer I only left on for an hour since some of the wood was already showing. I didn't want it to damage any of that. I wasn't sure if it would or not, so I finished scraping up what I could, added one more layer, coated it with the plastic again. I went ahead and took that time to run to Lowe's to grab a proper scraper for the next layer of scraping, or next section of scraping. Well, you know what I mean. Yep. So this layer actually did not come off as easy as I thought it was going to, even though I had a better scraper. I think this last little layer was just, I don't know, sealed pretty well, and really stuck to the table. So I did my best, and then whatever was left over, I ended up having to sand down, which was an experience in itself, and I have so much to share with you guys about that. I need a good sander. If y'all have any recommendations, let me know now in the comments down below, or send them over to me on Instagram if you can. I'm in the market because the sanders I have are not great. Oh, but before you get to sanding, you have to get all the goo off. So one thing that I didn't realize was just how sticky and gross this was going to be. I did a pretty good job at keeping my mess to a minimum, but after I had scraped off what I could, I had to go in with this Goo Gone spray, and I just coated it down really well. To me, this honestly just felt like oil. I guess you probably could have just gotten away with Dawn and water. I don't know for sure. You probably need something strong because this stuff is pretty sticky. But I used the Goo Gone, sprayed it down really good, let it sit for a little while, and then started scrubbing it off with a towel that I had. Whatever towels, just keep in mind any towels that you use are going to be garbage after this because this stuff is so sticky. You darn sure don't want to try to wash any of the products that you use in your washing machine. So just make sure you're using old rags or old t-shirts or something. One of the worst things about this type of table, this type of wood, is it yellows really easily. So as soon as you get it wet or add any type of varnish to it, it immediately gets yellow looking, and that's not the style I'm really going for. I like dark, rich wood, or more of a gray beige wood. So I started off with my sander. Now this one actually is not mine. It's actually my brother's. I ended up having it for years. I think it's mine at this point. The piece is missing on it, so I ended up taping this little hose to it so I could use the shop vac to try to keep the sanding or the sand and dust to a minimum. Oh, and look at that. There goes my receipt. No wonder I couldn't find my receipt. It's in the bush. That's hilarious. I was looking high and low for my receipt yesterday and I could not find it. I just saw it blow away. But anyway, so I started off with that sander, and the sander, the base of it, the Velcro has kind of gotten weak and fallen, it doesn't hold the sandpaper in place. So this is kind of where we started, and then I started to get frustrated. This is one of those moments where nothing is going as planned, and then you realize that you just probably should quit your project and start on it another day. That's about where I was at. I did my best. I just tried to sand what I could and then took a break, and I'm gonna jump into this project the following day using my old handy dandy Craftsman palm sander, which actually leaves scratches in the wood. I don't know if all sanders do this, but that sander in particular, it leaves little scratch circles. Has anybody had that experience? I've tried using, finer sandpaper to buff those out, but it continues to do it. And so whenever you add your stain or your clear coat, you can, if you look up close, you can see these little baby circles all in the wood. So since I took a break, I wanted to show you my new Halloween decor really quick. I know this is random, totally random, but I know some of you will appreciate this. It came from Amazon and I love it so much. I love like cute Halloween decor, like nothing like too spooky or scary. So this was perfect. It was like $42 and you just plug it in and it blows up, and it's actually pretty large in my opinion for the price. So I'll have this linked in case you're interested. After some very tedious sanding in what felt like a year, I finally got the table sanded down to bare wood. Now, one of the issues with this table, now I remember why I ended up painting it. It took me a while to realize this, but so you know how like this is a solid wood table, but it has like the particle board under it. So if you sand too much, you're going to hit that particle board stuff, and it does not stain evenly. It looks like kind of patchy. So I did hit a couple of those areas, but I was like, you know what, a few imperfections is fine. I'm not like a perfectionist by any means. I'm okay with it. So I decided to go ahead and start testing out my stain colors. I tried a couple different options, layers. I knew I was going to have to do like a gray wash and more of a warm tone, because I definitely didn't want like a gray wood. I wanted warm, but not too yellow. So I had two stains on hand, and I just played around with those two, and I feel like the color combination is really beautiful. However, because of this table being stained, sealed so many different times, and plus it wasn't in the greatest condition, I remember now when I got it, because it did have some of that particle board showing, some of the tabletop did not stain evenly. And they actually have a product that is for staining that you're supposed to apply it, and it helps, your stain go on evenly. But I haven't had the best luck with that in the past, so I was just like, you know what, let me just go for it. And we did end up with a little bit of a patchy finish. So let me show you. So I started off with the color Weathered Oak. Okay, so this is just kind of making it back to the yellow tone, but not like super yellow. I actually really like this finish. It's just a tad too light for my home. So then I went over that with a dark gray stain. I'll have to look it up and see which color I ended up buying a while back, because like I said, I had this on hand. It almost looks black in the can. I actually purchased this back when we did the beam in our new addition, and I never ended up using it, and I never ended up returning it because I knew eventually I would need it. And this color combination was perfect. So see how it goes on black? It's a little terrifying, but it does rub in really well, and it creates a beautiful, like, warm toned like stain. In my opinion, I think it's a really good color. And the only problem with the stain, and I didn't realize it at the time, was that it's actually a solid stain. So as I was applying it, I was wondering why it was so thick and kind of getting hard to rub in. It's because it's solid. It's actually supposed to be like kind of painted on, not like buffed in like this. So oops, but I did what I could. And I think it turned out okay. You just have to really buff this in. So I buffed it all in, and you can see how there are some areas that just took to the stain better than others. I genuinely think that is because of the amount of layers of paint and like sealant that I had on the table previously, and maybe I didn't sand it down as much as I should have. So you can see like some areas took to the darker stain more. It just adds some charm. We'll just say that, okay? But from a distance, I feel like it looks okay. And when you see it in the house, it's not so bad. But it is what it is. What can you do? Yeah, I had already started. So I was like, I have to finish it at this point. I will tell you, this looks a heck of a lot better than the painted table did with all the different like splotches and stuff. So at least it looks kind of like a rustic table. It's better than it being like a DIY nightmare table. Also, let me point out that a lot of those shadows are actually from the tree. So I just wanted to make that clear because it looks really, really patchy here, but in person it's not as bad. It's the shadows, but I cannot work in the sun. There ain't no way I'll be dying out here. So I have to work in the shade, and sometimes it can be a little challenging to see like the finished product in the video because of all the shadows, but overall I think it turned out really pretty. I actually love the color of wood, and by some happy accident, I was able to match the chairs almost perfectly. But then really quick here, I'm going in with the polyacrylic in a clear semi-gloss finish, very, very slowly rubbing this on with the paintbrush. Now, you do want to make sure you go with one thin coat first and then add thicker coats as you go on. There's different methods on how you can apply this. You can watch tons of YouTube tutorials if you are new to applying polyacrylic or any type of sealant. YouTube has a lot of amazing tutorials to offer. So if you're ever like stumped on something and maybe I don't explain it well, just simply type it in the search bar and you will be surprised at how much you can learn. I call it YouTube University. That's where I've learned most of my skills. So after a few layers of polyacrylic, this is how the table turned out. I don't even know how in the world I was able to get this table to match the chairs as good as it matches, but it looks a heck of a lot better than it did, that's for sure. Let me know in the comments below what y'all think. Thank you so much for hanging out for today's video, and I will see all of you in my next one. Bye, y'all.